Hey, everybody. I hope this finds you doing well. Sorry, it's just like being in class. You hear my notifications of an email. Um, anyway, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're not too stressed. I hope you're social distancing. I miss you all. It's not the same making plans when you're not here with me. And I hope you're not too stressed about things. All right. So don't worry about this class. Just like I told you, you do not have to teach yourself your math. I'm not going to just throw you out there and make you figure everything out on your own. And I don't know how your grade's going to work, but don't worry. I'll make sure it's fair. Just make sure you do what I ask of you. That's all I can have you do right now is just try your best and do everything I ask. And then we'll figure it out as we go. So, I noticed that a lot of you didn't quite understand how to find inverses. Maybe you don't even know what they are. So I thought a little lesson would be helpful. So I always hated it when my teachers taught something and then didn't make sure we really knew it and just kept going. And I don't want to do that to you. So we're going to go over inverses of functions and I want you to understand it. But you may not be great at it when we're finished. That's fine. No big deal. Okay. But let me explain it a little bit better. So let's first just talk about what inverses are. Okay. So some people say that inverses undo each other, which is kind of not very mathematical, but it's one way to think of it. If one adds on 4, the other one will take away 4. If one multiplies by 2, the other one will divide by 2. But really, what inverses mean is that if x is the input for one function and y is the output, so if x is the input and y is the output, then for its inverse, it'll be reversed. Y will be the input and X will be the output. And that's why the notes say that you switch the X and Y in the equation, okay? So basically what you do with these problems, first of all, there's different types. So the ones where it's just a little T-chart, all you literally have to do is switch the X and Y's, right? Even saw one of you or a couple of you just drew arrows to show that you knew that what was in the X goes to the Y and vice versa. And when it was ordered pairs, you just switch which one comes first in the parentheses. But when it gets to these equations, that's different. So let's talk about how you find the inverse of a function that is an equation. So I didn't give you this document because I thought you could watch me do these, but I do recommend you get some paper and write them down and do them with me. So I'm not going to pause. You just pause me, go get your paper, come back, and we will continue. But I do recommend you do these. Don't just watch. It's too hard to watch and learn. Math is not a spectator sport. So anyway, here's our first one. And notice it has an f of x on the left-hand side. There's no y anywhere. But remember, that's the same as y. So the first thing we do is just write a y instead of f of x. And then we literally switch the x and y. So this is fine. This is the inverse of that original problem. But it's not in the correct form. The best form is to have the y on the left-hand side all by itself. So that's what we have to do now. And this is just like solving any equation. If we were going to solve for y, what would we do first? We would add 3 to both sides. And we still need to get y by itself. So what do? We divide both sides by 4. And now y is by itself, but it's not, oops, my bad, it's supposed to be a 4. Let's fix that to a 4. The y is not on the left, so we need to rewrite it with the y on the left. I'm going to go up here, because you know sometimes I write too big. And now the y is on the left. All I did, notice, is switch what was on the left went to the right and vice versa. But then my last step is to write correct inverse notation. And that means f with the little -1 like an exponent, but here it doesn't count as an exponent, and then the x in parentheses. And we read that f inverse of x. Okay, so that one's pretty straightforward. Um, let's do number 2 because it has that negative sign. And we might jump around a little bit, just like we do in class, so that we don't spend a ton of time just practicing. You're going to need to do some on your own. So, first thing is rewrite with a Y. And then literally switch. Sorry. Just like being in class. So now literally switch your X and Y and then start getting Y all by itself. So to do that, we need to subtract 17 from both sides and then divide both sides by -7. Now, for those of you who are going to Honors Math 3, you really need to know that we do not leave a negative sign in the bottom of a fraction. You need to put it up either on top or just way off on the left. And this is a good lesson for all of you, not just those of you who are going to Honors Math 3. So when we switch it, I'm going to do that. I'm going to move that negative that was on the bottom. See, it was on the bottom, and now it's just hanging out by itself on the left. And then our last step is you got to have it with that negative, what looks like negative exponent, but is technically a function notation. And I didn't give myself enough room, so I'm going to put it down here. All right, so let's do number 3. Oh, and now my worksheet just decided to mess up. That's lovely. Oops, and now it just disappeared. Okay, so let's go here, and I don't know if it's going to let me Control Z. Yep, there we go. Okay, so now let's try number 3 because it's a little different. And then I need to show you one I realize isn't on here, so I'm going to make up one, all right? So number 3, put our y in instead of f of x. Literally switch your x and y's. Start working on getting that y by itself, which we do by first moving the 8 to the left by subtracting. And now what do we have to do to get the y by itself? We don't need to divide like we did on the other two. We need to multiply. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2. And when you do that, you have to be careful on the left-hand side because notice what's already over there, x minus 8. So we are going to need to multiply both of those by 2, which means we need to distribute 2x minus 16. That's what we have. And now I will switch them. And then my final answer is to rewrite it in function notation. Now, guys, some of you don't need all of these steps. Some of you can do some of it at the same time. But be careful you're not trying to do too many steps at one time, okay? Be careful that you're not trying to take shortcuts that cause you to get the answers wrong, because that doesn't help anything at all, all right? So let's do, oh, good grief. Maybe you're getting a chuckle or two out of this. All right, so let's make number 6 a little different. Let's make number 6, let's make it the square root of x plus 6. Okay, so if we do this one, first thing we're going to do is write the y, and then we will switch the x and y. And now we're going to need to isolate the y. But notice right now, the y and the 6 are trapped together under the square root. So to get rid of that square root that's trapping them, we're going to have to square both sides. And once we do that, the square root and the square on the right-hand side cancel each other out. So all we have is the y plus 6. And then we can subtract the 6, and now y is all by itself. So we'll switch the left and right hand side. So the y is on the left. Remember, your goal is to get y on the left, and then we will rewrite it in function notation. Now, we're going to do one more before I send you off to do them yourself. And this one is a little different. Still has a square root, but notice where the 6 is. It's on the outside of the square root this time. So we are going to put in our y, switch the x and y, and now notice the 6 is not trapped. So we can actually move the 6 now before we have to deal with the squaring. So we're going to move the 6 over by subtracting both sides. And then how do we get rid of the square root of y? How do we undo a square root? We square. But if we do it to the right, we have to do it to the left. And so now look, we have the 6 in the parentheses with the x. We didn't on that one before. Okay, so now the x minus 6 are both being squared inside the parentheses. Now we rewrite it with the y on the left and then in proper notation. All right, so hopefully this will take care of it for you. If it does not, please text me via remind or send me an email, and I'll be happy to help you with your OneNote homework. You and I can look at it together at the same time, and I can see what you're doing and check it. But I do want you to try this and really see if you can understand inverses a little bit better. You have a OneNote worksheet on this, and then also you have a quizzes to make it a little more interesting, which is a review of what we've been doing since like the beginning of time, it feels. All right, so you all take care of yourselves, take care of your family. I love you, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye.